Good day, everybody. It's been a very inspiring first session. I'm going to bring you into the world of real estate, which is a bit specific, so I hope you bear with me. I'm going to talk about real estate banking and what digital-first real estate banking actually means. Historically, banks have had a very significant impact on the real estate industry from the point of view of how real estate services developed as a result of the Great Depression, when the banks ended up with having a lot of real estate assets as collaterals that they took over and they had to manage them. So banks were the first movers to create professional real estate services, and then by adapting new technologies over the course of time, banks have been driving the innovation in the real estate industry quite a lot. And in the current day and age, platform business models have been dominating in different verticals, and in the real estate sector, banks have been also the ones promoting the use of platform business models in the real estate sector. And nowadays, the trend is, of course, tokenization of real estate assets, which is a very complex topic, so we'll try to cover that. Tokenization of real estate assets actually means going from this holding structure, and I'm going to talk about commercial real estate only, so very specifically. Normally, ownership vehicle of a real estate asset looks like a holding company owning a special purpose vehicle, which in turn owns the real estate asset. A real estate asset is a performing business model. Normally, a real estate asset is leased out to tenants, and the income stream is then basically used to capitalize the real estate asset and becomes a financial asset, a financial instrument. And so real estate assets are performing in an operational platform, let's call it that, without going into further details. And so the way to tokenization of real estate assets is moving from this monolithic top-down ownership structures to a tokenized vehicle. So decentralized vehicle where real estate assets are not directly owned by shareholders of a company, but indirectly or directly owned through ownership of tokens in a mobile banking app by a lot of people. And so before we go into the details, just a little side note by my good friend René Descartes, who said that the world would be a lot better place if people learn to understand each other. So let's do a little bit of a terminology definition. So what is real estate? Real estate is the world's largest asset class. It's worth about $230 trillion, which is quite a lot. This is, by comparison, the total amount of gold ever mined on the face of the earth. And this is real estate compared to the gold. So in terms of commercial real estate, there are 195 about million commercial buildings in the world. And it is also one of the fastest growing technology verticals recently. With money streaming into the PropTech sphere, there's been over 34 billion US dollars invested in the space since 2012. And so today, there are over 7,000 different solutions, applications, and applicable technology solution combinations that work in real estate. But the reality, according to our internal assessment, is that only under 1% of commercial buildings in the world today is digitalized to any extent. And to continue answering the question, what is real estate? Real estate asset, as such, is a thing. It answers the question what we can understand, what elements it's built of, what kind of layout it has, what kind of equipment is installed. It is located in a certain jurisdiction, in a certain geographical location, and among other important social points and so on. It answers also the question how, because we understand that real estate operates. We can understand how it's being built, developed, how it makes money, and how it is managed. And it also has a who question to answer. meaning who is the occupier of the buildings, who goes in, who owns the space, who manages the space, and so on. And digital real estate, just to put it in perspective, is these 4 questions that we ask about a real estate asset from the digital standpoint. So to answer the question what, we can use BIM models, which is building information modeling. It's an approach to expression of a volumetric and 3D information model about a building. We have geospatial and market data streams telling us where the asset is located in terms of macroeconomy and particular market. There's a number of software applications that is used to manage the property and to understand the revenue streams that the property generates. And of course, there are multiple phases of the occupier that we actually touched upon in the first session in the morning, because a person is no longer just a physical person, but it's a manifestation through a smartphone, an online avatar, and a banking behavior and spending behavior. And so it's all relevant for real estate, because when we connect all these things through APIs, of course, we are moving towards the kind of the era of smart buildings and smart cities and everything that is interconnected and interoperable. So that's a little bit about, just to put in perspective, what real estate is. The industry is very conservative, to say the least, and interoperability of solutions and data streaming has just become kind of the topics that are discussed in property fairs and in conferences that are devoted to professional topics of real estate management. And of course, the process that we've seen in the IT sector of decoupling the monolithic structures into first layers and now modular structures is also impacting the real estate technology business. And so companies who build and manage real estate, they now understand what reusable solutions are. And the technology is not anymore just a business supporting function with printers and notebooks and scanners inside an accountant office. Yeah, it's more like an embedded part of the DNA of the buildings. Yeah, so we talk about solutions that are scalable, that can talk to each other through API, and we can create bundles that eventually turn into reusable solution sets. And so this is a picture of 7,000 PropTech solutions that I mentioned earlier. So no human in their own conscious mind can anymore comprehend what this landscape is, because it's actually something like this. It's not monolithic, and every company out there, every technology vendor has their own specialization. And so you can actually discover APIs in our space, in real estate space, that deal with property data, APIs that help you build automatic cash flow models, APIs that can help you create valuation reports for buildings, APIs that can help you recognize some documents or some tabular data. And if you can single them out as specific USPs of technology vendors and blend them together into a bundle, you can create new applications. So by basically singling out these specific functionalities of each technology vendor, we can create this aggregation layer on top of which we can build new solutions. And that's essentially what we're doing with BuiltAPI. I'm going to demonstrate what we have achieved to date, and then I'm going to go back and talk a little bit more about the problems that we face. So BuiltAPI is a marketplace of APIs and ontologies. So we encourage consultants and people who work in the real estate business and real estate sector to create these technology bundles made of individual solutions. It's very difficult to discover and understand what each solution does. Normally you would have to go to Paris or Cannes or Munich, for that matter, to visit MIPIM conference or a real estate technology conference or Expo Real, and then discover companies. And then when you discover what companies do, you can go here and you can discover companies when you are visiting them at a stand. This is a recent example that I came across in Munich, a company called Ivana, and you can enrich it with some other companies, and you can basically add up it's like a Zapier interface. So you can create a solution bundle by just expressing your opinion. If you're a digital transformation consultant, you can just express an opinion that it would be good if these companies could work together and exchange information, and you could express your opinion in natural language. So you could just say, okay, this company is really good at recognizing documents or in analyzing data, and this company is really good at creating automatic calculations, and so together they could mean something. And anybody can go here and publish a bundle, and then deploying a bundle will be the next step on how to get all these companies and the consultants who work on client cases together to work under a project. And we encourage technology vendors who are listed in the space to actually list their open API documentation. So we also run the API gateway. So whenever you discover a technology, you can actually consume the API directly here by copying this code snippet and pasting it into your development environment and replacing the authentication token with our gateway token, and then entering the required parameters, and that's it. And when you run it, the gateway responds without you having to call the vendor or actually talking to the vendor or trying to get a token to try an API, which is a really, really big pain today in our field. But just discovering the API or understanding how to consume it is only half of the problem. So going back to presentation, a big problem is data harmonization. Like, how do we actually make these solutions talk to each other in the same language? And there is no simple answer, because the industry, our industry, real estate industry, has seen a lot of attempts to standardize the space. And I'm just going to go through just a few of those. These are just a few, just for you to understand that it's a very complex space. So these are reporting standards that we have in the real estate industry. These are software-driven data standards that emerged from application of different software solutions for asset management, property management, facility management, and so on. There are technology data standards coming from laser-based measurements or ISO standard 15926, which was actually originally designed for the oil industry, but then ended up being applicable in built environment. There are consortium-driven data standards, which are country-specific because real estate is very local business. And there are initiatives in Germany and the Netherlands and the UK and Sweden and Finland, and they're all very local. But this is the answer, as we found out, because Ontology is this really wonderful bottom-up way to make sense of your data. And so, as the industry today is still struggling with formats and standards, trying to shape everybody to be sort of in a one-size-fits-all approach, we, with BuiltAPI, we support the knowledge-based data discovery where you analyze a bunch of documents in real estate, lease agreements, service agreements, bank mortgage applications, and so on. And then you make sense of the discovered terminology, and then you basically build an ontology that can, based on the node theory, it can be applicable to a certain extent, so you can actually go about implementing a technology solution without having to multiply substances without necessity. And so the impact that we expect this project to have on real estate investment and banking, first of all, is we want to provide the additional technology upside to the asset level, to the SPV level that I showed earlier, to the ownership level, so that technology that is deployed into a building or a number of buildings will be an integral part of the business model. Much like electricity has become this invisible, implicit part of our daily living. And so when we deploy technologies on the asset level, we get this technology upside, so investors in real estate can enjoy this additional tech upside even based on the traditional investment strategies. And there are only 4 of those. I'm not going to go into detail. Banks, in turn, can build new applications. They can build front ends that respond in real time. They can use data streaming connections and understand performance of loans or performance of the underlying real estate assets by just visualizing all the data that we can harmonize and stream. And eventually, on our way to the tokenization, we are trying to cover this middle part of how we get from here to there. Because today, you can just Google tokenization of real estate and you will see dozens of platforms that are ready to do that, but these are like buckets without the water, yeah? And the water is something that we're enabling with the data streaming and data harmonization approach. So that's me. Please find me on LinkedIn and let's connect. We are looking for partners very actively. We're building our API management platform in-house, but we will be really happy to connect with you guys and try to see if we could collaborate. Our good friends at Platform of Trust in Finland, these are the guys who are building data linking platform. They have over 360 data models that they have built these Ontology translators on top, and they're really cool. You should check them out as well. So come find me and let's talk. Thank you for your attention.